Did you just touch me with those black hands?
40 guests at the Sterling. Dead silent. Grant Hollister grabbed his linen napkin and threw it straight at the waitress's face.
Sir, I was only pouring your...
Shut your mouth! Get this animal away from my table before she ruins my appetite.
The floor manager rushed over, apologized. To Hollister, not to her. She bent down, picked up the napkin, folded it perfectly, placed it back on his table, leaned close, and whispered 3 words. He waved her off, laughed, turned to his executives. Relax, she's nobody. He threw a napkin at a black waitress and never thought about it again. Why would he? She was just a girl in an apron. But those 3 words she whispered, they were already ticking, and Monday morning they exploded. 6 days before that napkin hit Amara Williams's face, she was sitting in her car outside the Sterling at 5:47 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. A Wharton MBA hung on her apartment wall back in Charlotte. A signed offer letter from Hollister Ventures glowed on her laptop at home. VP of People and Culture. Start date, Monday. The board had voted 4-1 to hire her. The lone dissent, Grant Hollister himself. He hadn't met her, hadn't seen her photo, hadn't read her file. All he'd said in the meeting was, "We don't need another diversity hire making PowerPoints nobody reads." Board Chairman Victor Bellingham overruled him. Now Amara sat in her car wearing a plain black shirt and black pants, a server uniform she'd bought that morning at a thrift store on King Street. Her professional clothes were folded in the back seat. On the passenger seat, a leather notebook. She opened it, wrote 2 words. Day 1. She had 1 week before Monday, 1 week to answer a single question. Who is Grant Hollister when he thinks no one that matters is watching? She picked up her phone, made 1 call. A man's voice answered, older, steady. "I'm going in," she said. "Be careful, Amara, and don't get caught." She hung up, stepped out of the car, walked through the Sterling service entrance. The first person she met was Ruthie Simmons, 54, black, elbows deep in a tray of polished silverware. 11 years at the Sterling, the longest-serving employee on the floor. Ruthie looked her up and down the way someone reads a resume without words. "You don't look like someone who needs this job." Amara tied her apron. "Everybody needs something." Ruthie held her gaze a beat too long, then shrugged. "Patio's this way." The staff hallway told Amara everything she needed to know within 30 seconds. A whiteboard hung beside the break room door. The weekly section assignment sheet, handwritten in blue marker. Amara slowed as she passed it. Didn't stop, didn't stare, just read. Section 1, Indoor, Trent Moore. Section 2, Indoor, Kyle Bennett. Section 3, Indoor, Colton Brady. Section 4, Patio, Ruthie Simmons. Section 5, Patio, Janelle Dixon. Section 6, Patio, Marcus Perry. Section 7, Patio, Amara Williams. Section 8, Patio, Darnell Okafor. Every indoor section, white. Every patio section, black. No exceptions, no asterisks. Amara pulled out her phone as if checking a text, snapped a photo of the board, kept walking. Beside the whiteboard hung the Employee of the Month display, 2 rows of framed photos stretching back 24 months. Amara counted without breaking stride. 24 months, 24 faces, all white. She noted it in her leather notebook during her first bathroom break, wrote 24 24ths, not 1. Derek Lawson found her 3 minutes later. The floor manager was 44, sharp-jawed, quick-stepping, the kind of man who confused efficiency with authority. He didn't shake her hand, didn't ask about her experience, didn't look at the application she'd filled out that morning, which listed a hospitality management degree she actually held. "You're Section 7, Patio. You shadow Ruthie tonight. She'll show you the tables." "Any chance of an indoor section? I have fine dining experience." "Patio!" He was already walking away. That's where we need people. People. Not you. Not even new hires. People. Amara tied her apron tighter and followed Ruthie outside. The patio was beautiful for guests. String lights, magnolia trees, candlelit tables overlooking a courtyard. For servers, it was a different story. Farthest from the kitchen. No air conditioning. August in Charleston meant 96 degrees on a slow night. And the tips, half of what indoor sections averaged because the big spenders always sat inside. During the last hour of her first shift, Ruthie handed her a coffee in the break room. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Ruthie spoke. Quietly, the way people talk when they've given up on being heard. Don't bother asking about indoor sections. I asked for 6 years. She nodded toward the hallway. Trent Moore. You see his name on the board? 3 weeks. 3 weeks he's been here. He's already inside. She sipped her coffee. They say it's seniority. Funny how seniority only works one direction. Amara said nothing, but she reached for the stack of linen napkins on the break room table, the same heavy, cream-colored linen the Sterling used in the dining room. She pulled one off the top, took out a pen, and began writing notes along the edge. Times, sections, names. The napkin as a weapon hadn't happened yet. For now, it was something else, a quiet tool of intelligence, hiding in plain sight. Ruthie watched her write, said nothing, but her eyes lingered on the leather notebook poking out of Amara's apron pocket. You write a lot for a waitress. She didn't say it. She didn't have to. 3 days passed. 3 days of patio heat, polished glasses, and notes filling the margins of Amara's leather notebook. She logged everything. The section assignments, unchanged every single day. The tip gaps, she calculated them on a napkin during her break. Indoor servers averaged $380 a night. Patio servers, $120. She watched Colton Brady, 21 years old, former car wash attendant, fumble a tray of champagne flutes on his second day in Section 3. Nobody moved him. She watched Ruthie handle a 12-top alone on the patio without a busser, while 2 indoor servers shared a 4-top with full support. None of it was accidental. All of it was architecture. Then Friday came. At 6:15 p.m., Derek Lawson's radio crackled. He lifted it to his ear, listened, and his posture changed. Shoulders back, chin up, a different man. He found Amara restocking napkins in the service corridor. Hollister's party tonight, private dining room, 8 guests. Amara had heard that name every day this week. The biggest VIP, the man the entire restaurant rearranged itself around. I need you in there tonight, Derek said. It's heavy. Full tasting menu, wine pairings, fast clears. I need someone who can carry the volume. It was the first time he'd given her anything above patio work. Not because he respected her, because the job was brutal and he needed hands. Then he leaned in. Don't talk unless spoken to. Don't touch the guests. Don't make eye contact unless they make it first, understand? Understood. And Amara? His voice dropped. This is our most important client. Don't embarrass me. At 7 p.m., Grant Hollister walked through the Sterling's front door like he owned the building. Gold cufflinks engraved with HV, Hollister Ventures. Custom suit. 8 executives behind him, all men, all laughing at something he'd said in the parking lot. Derek greeted him personally, hand extended, smile rehearsed. He lifted his radio and murmured 2 words. Table 0. Amara didn't know what it meant yet. She would by Sunday. For the next 2 hours, she served flawlessly. 5 courses. Wine poured at the textbook angle. Barolo first, then Brunello 2018, then a sauterne for the foie gras. Plates cleared within 90 seconds of the last fork resting. Water refilled before any glass dropped below half. Hollister never looked at her. Not once. She moved around him like air, present, necessary, invisible. He told a story about a golf trip. The table laughed. He told another about a competitor's stock price collapsing. The table laughed harder. Amara poured, cleared, poured again. Then during the cheese course, she reached across to pour the Brunello. Her sleeve brushed Hollister's cuff. Just barely. Fabric against fabric, less than a second. He jerked his arm back as if she'd burned him. The table went quiet. "Did you just touch me with those black hands?" His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The private dining room had perfect acoustics. Every word carried to the main floor. 40 guests heard it. 40 guests froze. Amara opened her mouth. "Sir, I was only pouring your—" "Shut your mouth! Get this animal away from my table before she ruins my appetite." He picked up his linen napkin, heavy, cream-colored, the sterling signature, and threw it at her face. It hit her left cheek with a soft, flat sound, fell to the floor. 4 seconds of silence. Complete, absolute. Derek Lawson rushed in. He placed himself between Amara and Hollister, facing Hollister. And he apologized. To Hollister. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hollister. She's temporary. It won't happen again." He didn't say Amara's name, didn't look at her. She was already being erased from the transaction. Amara bent down, picked up a napkin. Her hands were steady. She folded it, crease by crease, each line deliberate, each movement unhurried. Placed it back on the table beside Hollister's plate. Then leaned close, close enough that only he could hear, and whispered 3 words. Hollister blinked, then waved her off like a fly near his wine glass. She straightened, turned, and walked through the kitchen door. Her face showed nothing. Behind that door, she pulled out her leather notebook and wrote for 30 seconds straight. Time, date, direct quotes, witnesses. Back in the private dining room, one of his executives shifted uncomfortably. Hollister noticed, laughed. "Relax, she's nobody." He swirled his Brunello. Now, where were we? Q3 margins. The table resumed. The evening continued. Hollister tipped 40%, shook Derek's hand at the door, drove home listening to a podcast about executive presence. He did not think about the waitress Saturday, did not think about her Sunday, golf, brunch, a conference call about Asian market expansion. A black woman in an apron had whispered 3 words at him, and he had simply, completely let them evaporate. Because in his world, people like her didn't say things that mattered. He would remember that assumption for the rest of his life. Saturday morning, 6:12 a.m. Amara sat at her kitchen table in her Charleston sublet, a month-to-month rental she'd signed specifically for this week. The leather notebook lay open in front of her, half-filled now. 4 days of observations. 1 direct assault documented with time, date, direct quotes, and account of witnesses. Above the table, taped to the wall, 2 things: her Wharton diploma and a framed photograph of her mother, Patricia Williams, 51, standing outside a restaurant kitchen in grease-stained whites, smiling like a woman who'd spent 30 years feeding people who never learned her name. Her mother had been a line cook, never promoted, never offered management training, retired with a bad knee and a pension that barely covered rent. She once told Amara, "The kitchen sees everything, baby, it just don't talk." Amara stared at the photograph for a long time. Then she opened her laptop, pulled up the Hollister Ventures board meeting minutes from 3 weeks ago, the meeting where her career was decided by 5 people in a room she'd never entered. The vote had been straightforward. 4 board members reviewed her credentials: Wharton MBA, hospitality management degree, 6 years in corporate culture consulting, specializing in workplace equity audits. 4 votes, yes. The 5th vote, Grant Hollister, had been blunt. "We don't need another diversity hire making PowerPoints nobody reads." Victor Bellingham, the chairman, 68, silver-haired, 30 years in corporate governance, had overruled him with a single sentence. "The vote is 4-1. Ms. Williams starts Monday." Hollister never saw her photo, never opened her file, never asked a single question about her qualifications. She was a category to him, not a candidate. And that was before he threw a napkin at her face. Amara closed the laptop, picked up the leather notebook, flipped through 4 days of entries, section assignments, tip calculations, the employee of the month count, Derek's radio codes, Ruthie's testimony about 6 years of denied requests. Strong patterns, clear disparities, but patterns weren't proof. A CEO with a legal team could call it operational discretion and make it disappear. She needed what was in Derek's office, the binder, burgundy cover, gold lettering, guest preferences, confidential. She'd seen it twice through his open door, hadn't been able to get close. She picked up her phone, dialed. Bellingham answered on the second ring, early riser, old habit. "It's worse than the glass door reviews," Amara said. "I've got 4 days of documentation, shift patterns, tip distribution, discriminatory section assignments. All consistent, all systematic." She paused. "But there's a binder in the floor manager's office, client preference records. I need to see what's inside." "How much time do you have?" 2 days. I go back today and tomorrow. Monday, I'm in your boardroom." A pause on the line, then quieter. "Amara, what he did with that napkin, are you all right?" She looked at her mother's photograph, the grease-stained whites, the smile that never reached the dining room. "I will be, on Monday." She hung up, stood, put on the black shirt and black pants for the 5th time, tied her apron, slid the leather notebook into her pocket. Then she reached for the kitchen counter where she'd placed something the night before. A linen napkin from the Sterling's breakroom stack, folded neatly, still blank. She tucked it into her apron beside the notebook. A tool, not a weapon, not yet. Amara drove to the Sterling for her Saturday shift. 48 hours left. 48 hours to turn observations into evidence that couldn't be dismissed, couldn't be explained away, couldn't be laughed off the way Hollister had laughed off her 3 words. She parked, walked to the service entrance. Derek was standing inside the door, checking his watch. "You're late." She wasn't. He knew she wasn't. She said nothing, clocked in. Saturday morning hit 94 degrees by 10 a.m. Amara worked Section 7, patio as always, and handled a 9-top brunch party alone, while Colton Brady served a 2-top indoors with a busser at his elbow. She watched him carry a tray of mimosas with both hands, wobbling, nearly clipping a chair. 3 weeks on the job. 0 fine dining experience. Prime indoor real estate. She didn't blame him. He was 21. He didn't design the system, he just fit inside it without trying. During the brunch rush, Derek's radio crackled. A voice from the host stand. "VIP incoming. Mr. Caldwell, party of 4. Derek lifted the radio. "Copy, table 0. Amara was refilling waters 2 feet from him. She heard it clearly. Table 0, the same code he'd used Friday night before Hollister's dinner. She watched what happened next. Within 90 seconds, 2 things changed. Janelle Dixon, black, Section 5, mid-service with a 6-top, was pulled off the dining floor and sent to the patio to help with overflow. There was no overflow, and Darnell Okafor, bussing the east side, was rerouted to the kitchen for dish backup. There was no backup needed. By the time Mr. Caldwell walked through the door, every black employee had been moved out of his line of sight. Table 0. Now she understood. It wasn't a table number. It was a clearance command. A VIP with racial preferences has arrived. Remove all black staff from the floor. Immediately. Quietly. No questions. Amara wrote 3 letters in her notebook during her next bathroom break. T-0. Circled them twice. Saturday afternoon. Break room. Ruthie was eating a sandwich she'd brought from home. Turkey on white, no frills, same lunch every day for 11 years. Amara sat across from her with the leather notebook open, pen moving. Ruthie chewed, watched, then said it. "You write a lot for a waitress." Amara didn't look up. "Bad memory." "Mm-hmm." Ruthie didn't push, but she didn't look away either. Something in her eyes said, "I don't know what you are, but you're not what you're pretending to be." Saturday night, Amara volunteered for closing duty. Nobody wanted closing. An extra hour of unpaid breakdown work after the last guest left. Perfect. At 11:40 p.m., the dining room was empty. Amara moved through it with a bus tub, clearing the final tables. Then she stopped at the section assignment cabinet beneath the whiteboard in the staff hallway, opened the drawer. Inside, the previous week's assignment sheets filed by date. She pulled 3 weeks' worth, laid them on the break room table, photographed each one. 21 days, 21 schedules. Not once, not a single day in 3 weeks had a black server been assigned an indoor section. Not Ruthie, not Janelle, not Darnell, not Marcus Perry, who'd been at the Sterling for 4 years. The indoor floor was white, the patio was black, every day, without exception. She also checked the shift structure. Black servers were scheduled for clopins, closing at 11 p.m., then opening at 6 a.m., less than 5 hours between shifts. White servers never had clopins. Not once in 21 days. Amara photographed everything, returned the sheets to the drawer, closed it, walked out. In her car, she added to the notebook. 21 days, 0 black indoor. Clopins, black only. Pattern is structural, not incidental. Sunday morning. Derek was on the phone in his office when Amara passed on her way to the break room. The door was open 6 inches. She slowed her step. Not enough to look suspicious, just enough to hear. Friday night went smooth. Hollister was happy, that's what matters. A pause. The girl? I'll handle it. Her trial evaluation's Monday. I'll cut her then. Amara kept walking. Wrote the quote in her notebook 30 seconds later, word for word. The girl? I'll handle it. He was planning to fire her Monday morning. A performance evaluation she'd never been told about, scheduled for 8 a.m. The irony was sharp enough to taste. At 8 a.m. Monday, Amara Williams wouldn't be standing in Derek Lawson's office in an apron. She'd be sitting in a boardroom in Charlotte, across the table from the man who threw a napkin at her face. Derek just didn't know that yet. Sunday afternoon, Amara passed Derek's office again. The door was open wider this time. He was in a vendor meeting in the wine cellar. On his desk, exactly where she'd seen it twice before, the binder. Burgundy leather cover, gold-stamped letters. Guest preferences. Confidential. She couldn't open it now. The vendor meeting could end any minute. The hallway had no cover. But she noted the exact position on the desk. Left side, spine facing the window beneath a stack of order forms. She'd need 15 minutes, and she'd need Derek to be somewhere else. Tomorrow. It had to be tomorrow. Sunday night, the last shift. Amara and Ruthie closed the patio together, breaking down tables, rolling silverware, stacking chairs. The magnolia trees rustled overhead. The string lights swayed. For a moment, it was almost beautiful. Ruthie was quiet for a long time. Then she started talking. I applied for floor manager once, 4 years ago. She folded a tablecloth without looking at it. Muscle memory, thousands of repetitions. I had 11 years of experience, clean record. I knew every table, every regular, every wine on the list. I even wrote out a proposal, how to improve patio service, reduce kitchen wait times. Printed it out, gave it to Derek. She smoothed the cloth. He told me the position was filled. Was it? He hired someone from outside 2 weeks later, white guy, never worked a restaurant in his life. She stacked the cloth on the pile. I stopped applying after that, not because I can't do it, because they made it clear they'd never let me. Amara didn't write it down. She didn't need to. Every word was already carved into the case she was building, not in ink, but in the kind of memory that doesn't fade. They finished closing in silence. Before she left, Amara stopped at the break room table, pulled a fresh linen napkin from the stack, the same heavy cream-colored sterling linen. She sat down and wrote, everything. A summary of 6 days compressed into blue ink on white fabric. Shift patterns, section assignments, tip distribution gaps, the table 0 code, Colton Brady's fast track, Ruthie's rejection, Derek's phone call, the Clopins, the Employee of the Month board, 24 months, 24 white faces, the binder she hadn't opened yet. The napkin was dense with writing by the time she finished. She folded it carefully, the same deliberate fold she'd used on Hollister's napkin Friday night, and tucked it into her leather notebook. A napkin had been thrown at her face as an insult. Now, a napkin held the map of an entire system. Same object, different hands, different meaning. Sunday, 11:58 p.m. Amara walked to her car for the last time as a Sterling employee. Got in, sat in the dark. The restaurant's gold sign glowed in her rearview mirror. Her phone buzzed. Text from Victor Bellingham. Ready for Monday? She looked at the sign. Thought about Ruthie folding tablecloths for 11 years. Thought about her mother in grease-stained whites, smiling outside a kitchen that never learned her name. Thought about a linen napkin hitting her cheek while 40 people watched and said nothing. She typed back, "They have no idea." Started the car, drove away. Tomorrow she needed 15 minutes in Derek's office. 15 minutes, and that binder would stop being a secret. Monday, 5:31 a.m. The Sterling was dark. Amara parked 2 blocks away. Walked to the service entrance wearing her black server uniform for the last time. In 4 hours, she'd be in a boardroom in Charlotte. Right now, she needed 15 minutes in Derek Lawson's office. The entry code was the same one Ruthie had mentioned in passing on Tuesday. 6 digits, unchanged in 10 years. The Sterling's management never imagined anyone would need to break in. Why would they? The people they mistreated didn't fight back. They just left. The keypad beeped. The door clicked open. Inside, the restaurant was a different animal. No chandeliers lit. No crystal catching light. Just the hum of industrial refrigerators from the kitchen and the faint smell of lemon polish on empty tables. Amara moved through the dining room without turning on lights. She knew the layout by memory now. 6 days of carrying trays through every aisle. Derek's office. End of the staff hallway. Door closed but unlocked. He never locked it. Never needed to. She pushed it open, stepped inside, closed it behind her. The binder was exactly where she'd last seen it. Left side of the desk, spine facing the window, beneath a stack of order forms. Burgundy leather, gold-stamped lettering, guest preferences, confidential. She put on a pair of thin cotton gloves she'd bought at a pharmacy Saturday night, lifted the order forms, opened the binder. The first page was a table of contents, handwritten in Derek's tight, slanted script. Alphabetical. Client names down the left margin, page numbers down the right. 43 entries. She turned to the H section, found it immediately. Hollister Grant, page 22. Page 22. A laminated card, heavier than the others, slid into a plastic sleeve. Derek's handwriting, blue ink, block letters, the careful penmanship of a man who knew exactly what he was recording. Hollister Grant, CEO, Hollister Ventures. Table, private dining room, window-facing seat. Wine, Barolo or Brunello, 2015 or later. Staff, no black servers. Female preferred, white, under 30. Tips 40% when satisfied. Do not deviate. Amara read it twice, then photographed it. The card, the sleeve, the page number, the binder's cover. Her hands were steady, her breathing wasn't. She kept turning. Page 8, Caldwell Richard. No accent, no color. Page 14, Davenport Hugh. White staff only, will leave if uncomfortable. Page 29, Mercer Philip. No foreigners at the table. Southern hospitality means Southern faces. 11 cards out of 43 contained explicit racial or ethnic restrictions on staff. 11. Not coded, not implied. Written in permanent ink, laminated for durability. Filed alphabetically in a binder that sat on a desk in an unlocked office because no one in power had ever imagined that someone with a reason to look would be allowed close enough to find it. That was the architecture of the system, not secrecy, certainty. The certainty that the people being sorted would never have the access, the language, or the leverage to challenge it. Amara turned to the back of the binder. Tucked behind the last client card was a folded spreadsheet printout, 2 pages, stapled. Tip distribution records, monthly averages broken down by section. Indoor servers, sections 1 to 3, $380 per night average. Patio servers, sections 4 to 8, $120 per night average. The gap, $260 per night, per server, every night. She did the math in her head. A patio server working 5 shifts a week lost roughly $1,300 a week compared to indoor peers. Over a year, $67,000 in lost income. Over Ruthie's 11 years, $750,000. Not stolen by a mugger, stolen by a whiteboard and a blue marker. Amara photographed every page, both sides of the spreadsheet, the table of contents. 3 additional client cards she selected for range, 1 requesting no black servers, 1 requesting no accents, 1 requesting southern faces only. She checked the time. 11 minutes had passed. She needed to leave. She closed the binder, returned it to the exact position, left side, spine-facing window beneath the order forms. Wiped the cover with her sleeve even though she'd worn gloves. Old habit. Thoroughness. She opened the office door. Hallway empty. She stepped out, closed the door behind her. In the break room, she stopped one last time. The stack of sterling napkins sat on the table, the same heavy linen, the same cream color. She pulled one from the top, took out her pen, and wrote 3 words in the center of the fabric. "See you Monday." She folded it, the same precise fold she'd used on Hollister's napkin 6 days ago. Tucked it into the inside pocket of her blazer, which hung in her locker beside the apron she'd never wear again. Then Amara Williams walked out of the Sterling service entrance for the last time. The sky was turning gray-pink over Charleston. 5:46 a.m. She had 3 hours and 14 minutes before she'd be sitting at the opposite end of a boardroom table from the man who called her an animal. She got in her car, placed the leather notebook on the passenger seat. It was full now, every page. In the pocket of her blazer, a napkin with 3 words. In her phone, 41 photographs. In her chest, something that wasn't anger and wasn't fear. It was the feeling of a woman who'd done the work and was ready for the room. Monday, 8:47 a.m., Hollister Ventures headquarters, Charlotte, North Carolina. The boardroom sat on the 14th floor. Glass walls, a long walnut table, 8 leather chairs, and a screen at the far end that nobody expected to use today. This was supposed to be a routine introduction. 20 minutes, handshake, move on. Grant Hollister arrived at 8:52, coffee in his left hand, phone in his right. He dropped into the chair at the head of the table without looking up. 4 board members were already seated, 2 on each side. Victor Bellingham sat at the opposite end, reading glasses on, pen resting on a legal pad. Hollister sipped his coffee, scrolled an email. He hadn't asked the new VP's name, hadn't Googled her, hadn't requested her file from HR. The board had forced a diversity hire on him, and he planned to be polite for 20 minutes and then bury her in a department with no budget and no teeth. "So," he said, still looking at his phone, "where's the new hire?" Bellingham didn't answer. He was watching the door. It opened at 8:55. Amara Williams walked in. Navy blazer, white blouse, leather notebook in her left hand. She moved without hurry, the walk of someone who'd rehearsed nothing because she didn't need to. She pulled out the chair at the far end of the table, directly facing Hollister, and sat down. For a moment, nothing happened. Hollister glanced up from his phone, looked at her the way he looked at anyone he considered a formality, brief, indifferent, already cataloging how quickly this could end. He did not recognize her. She had served him wine for an entire evening. He had thrown a napkin at her face. He had called her an animal in front of 40 people. and he was looking at her right now with the blank, polished neutrality of a man meeting a stranger for the first time. Because to him, she had been a stranger. A uniform, a pair of black hands he'd recoiled from. Not a face, never a face. Bellingham spoke. "Grant, I'd like you to meet Amara Williams, our new Vice President of People and Culture." Hollister set his phone down, nodded once. "Welcome aboard." 2 words, no eye contact. He picked up his coffee again. Amara opened her leather notebook. She didn't reach for the screen remote, didn't open a laptop, didn't start with a slide deck about inclusion metrics or company values or any of the things Hollister had already decided to ignore. She started with a question. "Mr. Hollister, do you eat at the Sterling often?" He looked up, confused, slightly annoyed. "I do. Why?" "How's the service?" "Fine. What does this have to do with, because I spent last week working there?" She laid her notebook flat on the table. "As a waitress, in Section 7, the patio." She paused. "Your Friday night dinner, the tasting menu with the 2018 Brunello, I served it." The boardroom went still. Hollister stared at her. The recognition didn't crash in all at once. It came in pieces. Slow, ugly pieces. First, confusion, a crease in his forehead. Then a flicker behind his eyes, something trying to connect. Then the blood leaving his face, starting at the jaw, climbing upward until he was the color of the wall behind him. He remembered. Amara stood, picked up the screen remote, clicked. First slide, the section assignment whiteboard. 3 weeks of photographs side by side. Every indoor section white, every patio section black. 21 days, 0 exceptions. "This is the staffing pattern at the Sterling for the 3 weeks I was employed there," she said. Her voice was level. No anger, no performance, just data. Second slide, the tip distribution spreadsheet. Indoor average, $380. Patio average, $120. A gap of $260 per server per night. She let the numbers sit. Third slide, the Employee of the Month board. 24 consecutive months, 24 white faces. She didn't comment. She didn't need to. Fourth slide, a photograph of a laminated card in a burgundy binder. Hollister's name at the top. Derek Lawson's handwriting beneath it. No black servers. Female preferred. White under 30. Tips 40% when satisfied. Do not deviate. Amara read it aloud. Every word, slowly. The syllables landed on the walnut table like stones dropped into still water. One board member, Sandra Leclerc, 12 years on the board, pressed her hand over her mouth. Bellingham's pen had stopped moving. The 2 remaining members sat frozen, eyes on the screen, faces unreadable. Hollister's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Amara reached into the inside pocket of her blazer, pulled out a linen napkin, cream-colored, heavy, folded with the same precise creases she'd used 6 days ago at table 6. She unfolded it, placed it on the table in front of Hollister. 3 words in blue ink. "See you Monday." "I whispered these words to you Friday night," she said, "right after you threw a napkin at my face and called me an animal in front of 40 people. She looked at him. "You laughed. You told your executives I was nobody." Silence. "It's Monday, Mr. Hollister." His gold cufflinks, the ones engraved with HV, the ones that had caught candlelight Friday night as he flicked a napkin at a woman's face, rattled against the walnut table. His hands were shaking, not from anger, from the sudden, total collapse of a man realizing that the person he erased from his memory had been building a case against him from the moment he looked away. He opened his mouth again. This time, a single word came out. Amara didn't wait. 11 client preference cards in that binder contain explicit racial restrictions on staff. 11. Written in your floor manager's handwriting, laminated for durability, filed in an unlocked office. Because no one imagined that the people being sorted would ever be in a position to open it. She closed the notebook. "I was in that position. and I opened it. The room didn't move. Nobody reached for water. Nobody checked a phone. The only sound was Hollister's cufflinks, still trembling against wood. Bellingham removed his reading glasses, set them on his legal pad, looked at Hollister for a long moment, then turned to the board. "I'm calling an emergency session. Grant, please step outside." Hollister stood. The chair scraped against the floor, a sound too loud for the silence it broke. He buttoned his jacket with hands that wouldn't cooperate, walked to the door, didn't look back, didn't speak, closed the door behind him with the careful precision of a man holding himself together one gesture at a time. The door clicked shut. Bellingham turned to Amara. "The floor is yours, Ms. Williams." The emergency board session lasted 41 minutes. Amara walked the 4 remaining members through every piece of evidence in the order she'd collected it. Not the order of outrage, but the order of discovery. Whiteboard photographs, tip distribution spreadsheet, Clopen schedules, Table 0 protocol, Employee of the Month display, 11 client preference cards, 6 days of handwritten observations from her leather notebook, cross-referenced with Ruthie Simmons's testimony about 6 years of denied requests. She presented it the way she'd been trained at Wharton, clean, structured, sourced. But beneath the data, every person in that room could feel the weight of something no spreadsheet could contain. When she finished, Bellingham asked one question. "What do you recommend?" Amara didn't hesitate. She'd written the answer Saturday morning beneath her mother's photograph. First, Mr. Hollister's authority over all hiring, firing, compensation, and culture decisions is suspended immediately. Transferred to my office, reporting directly to this board. Bellingham looked at the other 3 members. No one objected. Motion to transfer. All in favor. 4 hands. Unanimous. Hollister's chair was still warm. Second, a 90-day reform plan across all Hollister-affiliated properties. 3 pillars. Transparent scheduling. No single manager controls who works where. Rotation algorithm, visible to all staff, auditable. Equal training access, sommelier certification, management development, open enrollment, no gatekeeper, and a confidential reporting channel that bypasses the chain of command being reported. She paused. If Ruthie Simmons had been given these 11 years ago, she'd be running that restaurant by now. Bellingham wrote each pillar on his legal pad. And the Sterling specifically? Amara picked up the boardroom phone, dialed the Sterling's main line. "The Sterling, this is Derek." Cheerful, casual, the voice of a man who expected to spend Monday morning firing a temporary waitress. "Derek, this is Amara Williams. I'm calling from Hollister Ventures headquarters. I'm the company's new vice president of people and culture. Your guest preferences binder is now evidence in an internal investigation. HR will contact you within the hour." Quick breathing on the other end, then a click. He hung up. By 2 p.m., a 2-person HR team was inside the Sterling. Derek Lawson was terminated at 2:24. Documented, procedural, no spectacle. Termination letter, final paycheck, 15 minutes to collect belongings. The binder was collected, the whiteboard dismantled. A temporary floor manager was appointed from within the existing staff. 1 week later, company-wide virtual town hall. Every Hollister property, every employee. Amara didn't name Hollister, didn't describe the napkin. She named systems. She presented anonymized data showing how section assignments, scheduling, and tip distribution had been weaponized across 3 properties. She announced the new policies, opened the Q&A. For 28 minutes, employees spoke. A cook in Savannah denied promotion 3 times despite training 2 white replacements. A hostess in Raleigh told her natural hair was not brand appropriate. A server in Charleston who'd found her own name on a preference card she was never supposed to see. Amara listened to every one. After the town hall, a 1-line email from Victor Bellingham. "That room needed you 10 years ago." She read it, closed her laptop, looked at the photograph of her mother above her new desk. Patricia Williams, line cook, 30 years, never promoted, never asked what she thought. Amara whispered to the photograph, "They're asking now, Mama." 3 weeks after the boardroom, the Sterling looked the same from the outside. Same gold sign, same magnolia trees, same white linen visible through the windows. Inside, things had shifted in ways only the people who worked there could feel. The section assignment whiteboard was gone. In its place, a digital scheduling screen mounted on the staff hallway wall. Transparent, algorithm-based, rotations posted every Sunday night, visible to all staff. Indoor and patio sections distributed alphabetically by last name, cycling weekly. Ruthie Simmons stood in front of that screen on her first morning as interim floor manager, appointed by the staff, not by corporate. They voted in the break room. It was unanimous. Kyle Bennett, white indoor regular for 2 years, found her 10 minutes later. "Ruthie, there's got to be a mistake. I've been indoor for 2 years. Patio, in August, it's 95 degrees out there." Ruthie looked at him over her reading glasses. "I know," she smiled, small, private, earned. "Now you know how the patio feels in August." Kyle opened his mouth, closed it, picked up his apron and walked outside. Colton Brady stayed. He almost quit the week after Derek was fired, not out of loyalty, but out of shame. He'd started to understand what his fast-track placement had really meant. Not that he was talented, not that he'd earned it, just that he was white and 21, and nobody questioned where a kid like him belonged. Ruthie told him, "Don't leave because you feel guilty. Stay because now you can actually learn." He stayed. He learned. He worked patio for 3 weeks on rotation, came back sunburned, sore, and quieter than before. One afternoon, bussing the east side, he passed Janelle Dixon carrying a 10 tops worth of plates alone. He grabbed a bus tub without being asked and fell into step beside her. "I had no idea it was that hard out there." Janelle didn't look up. "Yeah, that's exactly the point." Amara launched the Leadership Pipeline program the following month. Open enrollment across all Hollister-affiliated properties. No gatekeeping. No manager approval required. First cohort, 14 employees, 9 people of color, 3 from the Sterling's patio crew, including Darnell Okafor, the busser rerouted to dish backup every time a table 0 was called. Darnell picked wine studies. When Ruthie told him the company was covering the full cost, he asked her to repeat it. She did. He asked again. She laughed. Third time, yes. Go sign up before I change my mind. On a Saturday evening in late September, Amara drove to Charleston. Not for work. She brought her daughter, Zoe, 4 years old, small braids, loud opinions about mac and cheese. They walked through the Sterling's front door, not the service entrance, the front door. The hostess seated them at table 6, the private dining room, the same table where Grant Hollister had thrown a napkin at Amara's face 2 months earlier. Zoe colored on a placemat. Amara ordered the 2018 Brunello, the same bottle from that night. Poured it herself, held the glass to the candlelight. Smoke and black cherry. "Mama, is this your restaurant?" "No, baby, but I used to work here." "Did you like it?" Amara looked around the dining room. 2 black servers working the indoor floor tonight. A training program flyer pinned beside the break room door. "I do now." 2 days later, an email from an address she didn't recognize. No subject line. "Ms. Williams, I worked at the Sterling for 3 years. Section 5, patio, 5 days a week. I filed a complaint about the scheduling once. Derek told me I was not a culture fit and cut my hours until I quit. I saw what you did. I never thought anyone would go back and fix it. Thank you for going back." Amara read it twice, closed her laptop, sat quietly for a long time. The kind of victory that didn't make slides or speeches, the kind that lived in the silence between a woman who'd fought and a woman who'd finally been heard. 1 month later, Hollister Ventures headquarters. A new display was installed outside the People and Culture office, glass-framed, soft lighting. At the center, a linen napkin, cream-colored, pressed and mounted behind glass. 3 words in blue ink: "See you Monday." Below it, a small brass plaque. A reminder that the people you overlook may be the ones who hold your future. The napkin had been a tool, notes scribbled during a break. A weapon, thrown at a woman's face. Evidence, a case built in blue ink. A declaration, placed before a trembling man. And now, mounted behind glass in a corporate hallway, it became something else entirely. A promise that the system had changed, and that someone was watching to make sure it stayed that way. 6 months later, the Sterling received its first Michelin mention in a regional guide. The review praised many things: the wine list, the tasting menu, the courtyard under magnolia trees. But one line stood out. An unusually warm and knowledgeable floor team, the kind of service that feels personal, not performed. Ruthie Simmons passed her floor management certification in November, the same program Derek Lawson had told her didn't exist. She framed the certificate and hung it in the staff hallway, right next to the digital scheduling screen. Nobody asked her to, she just did. The Leadership Pipeline program's first cohort graduated in December. 14 employees. 2 were promoted to management roles at other Hollister-affiliated properties, 1 in Savannah, 1 in Raleigh. Darnell Okafor completed his wine certification and was reassigned to the Sterling's indoor floor as a dedicated sommelier in training. First time a former patio busser had ever held that title. Grant Hollister remained CEO of Hollister Ventures, in title. He retained authority over corporate strategy, investor relations, and financial operations. But every decision involving people, hiring, firing, compensation, promotion, culture policy, ran through Amara's office. He no longer dined at the Sterling, never spoke publicly about the incident. At the most recent board meeting, he voted in favor of extending the pipeline program's budget for a second year. Whether that was growth or survival instinct, the story doesn't say. The audience can decide. Derek Lawson was managing a casual dining chain in another state. His name did not appear in this story again. Amara was invited to speak at the National Restaurant Association's annual conference in January. The topic: what I learned as a waitress at my own company's restaurant. She opened with one sentence: "The kitchen sees everything. It just doesn't talk until someone decides to listen." Standing ovation, 400 people. Her mother's words. Finally, in a room big enough to hold them. If you've ever been underestimated because of how you looked, not what you knew, drop one word in the comments that describes how it felt. Just one word. And if you want to see what happens when people like Amara get the seat they earned, subscribe so you don't miss the next one.